Integrative are delighted to be joined by acclaimed musician Jo Bartlett today. Jo has been involved in the music industry in various guises since the 1980s and has just recently released a new album, Ghost Tapes 1 to 9. So hi Jo,
Hi
how's
there.
it going?
Yeah, really
How are
good,
you?
thanks.
Brilliant. So the new album, Ghost Tapes 1 to 9, not long out. I guess you'll be delighted it's finally out there. What's the reaction like?
It's been really good, and I'm very happy. I'm over the moon. I started it 2 years ago, recording it at home on my laptop. I taught myself how to use Logic, the software, and I
Mhm.
sort of taught myself whilst recording the album that came before it, which was called The Cut Up, which it was more experimental. I put cassettes of live recordings from buzz clubs, the club I used to run, and all that kind of stuff, and then put music under it. But what I wanted to teach myself how to do was to do the vocals and acoustic guitars and use microphones properly. So this album, Ghost Tapes, is the first time I've actually done that. And I've been really, yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed the process. As I said, I started 2 years ago, just firing my laptop up at home in the front room,
Mhm.
and started writing the songs. I've never written lyrics before. All the stuff I've done before, the songs I've written before have been with my partner Danny, and he always
Yeah.
did the lyrics and I did the music. But I felt that I just had some things I needed to kind of get off my chest, if you like. So I just thought, right, I'm going to just do the lyrics. And so I'm really pleased. I've done everything on the album. I kind of produced it, played all the instruments, wrote the lyrics and what have you. And I'm really happy with it. And I'm even more happy that people seem to be enjoying it, which has been great.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess you're saying you've written the lyrics, the music, all of that, very much a DIY project.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you get a bit lonely with that, given Danny's involvement previously?
It is a
You're
bit
doing it
weird.
on your own?
It is a bit weird because I didn't really want to play him the initial songs because I was self-conscious because they're quite, honest lyrics, and so I was a bit embarrassed for him to even hear them. I mean, he could hear it when he's in one room and I'm like getting intro track and blasting it. He can hear it through the wall, but not in any detail kind of thing. Yeah. Obviously, if you're in the band, if you're in a band and you're in the studio and you finish a great track, you can all be like, high-fiving and patting each other on the back.
Mhm.
So it was a bit weird when I would do stuff that I was delighted with, and it was only me who could hear it. But at the same time, I quite enjoyed listening back on it. I can't complain.
Yeah, and I guess you're saying it's 2 years in the making, bringing that from some ideas to fruition. Do you get a bit nervous to actually put it out there for people to listen,
I couldn't
wondering,
wait for people
what?
to listen to it. Actually, I was so
Right.
pleased with it. I actually finished it in December. Um, I started literally, when I say 2 years, that was literally picking up the guitar and getting the first ideas of lyrics and songs, and then I would kind of work on it a song at a time. So develop it on the guitar in the first instance, then take it over and start recording it. And I had a kind of
Mhm.
revelation moment when I was listening back to it one day, and I had two tracks finished or semi-finished at that stage, and I muted the guitar. And it was just like, wow, it kind of made it sound a bit more. The other pieces were already there, but just by
Yeah.
muting the guitar, it made it sound more electro because it didn't have that kind of thing carrying it through. And then that's a thing, a trick I did on pretty much all the tracks. Then I'd
Mhm.
do the guide guitar, and then at the point where everything was in there, well, I'd mixed it down. I would mute the guitar, and then sometimes bring it in a little bit at the end to pick up an ending and things like that. And then I knew it was getting December time, and I thought I had seven of the tracks finished at that point. And I
Mhm.
thought I just really want to finish it before Christmas. And so I knew I think should finish it on a kind of an acousticy one. So I did that one, only two chords. And then I knew that I just wanted to put almost a slightly more experimental track as the lead track to get people into listening to the album as a sort of introduction. So I knew that
Mhm.
the lyrics weren't that important for this one, and I called it the last one as the first because it was the last track I recorded, but I knew it was going to be the first track on the album. And then I finished it in December, but a guy called Ken has been doing my press for me, and he said we need a really long run up if you want to get it in any of the printed magazines. So I
Okay.
had to wait with this finished album until April till it came out, kind of like, oh, I just want everyone to hear it. And luckily it worked because we got the 8 out of 10 in uncut, which was the icing on the cake really for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's probably the most prestigious magazine at the moment, isn't it,
Yeah, thank
in
you. I
terms of
agree.
music and that type of thing. So,
Yeah.
no, great. And so, yeah, it's got a little bit of experimentation, just what you're saying about the guitar. And I think that's probably the beauty of it. You're in control of that, and you
Yeah.
can try different aspects before you get, really that light bulb moment
Yeah,
that works
exactly.
really, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
you mentioned the lyrics. briefly, one sense I do get is some of the songs seem to be quite personal. So was that a deliberate thing for you, and and
Yeah,
thinking
well,
about what you're going to write about? And
anytime I've attempted to write lyrics in my past, it's been a kind of like fire, desire, rubbish, kind of no meaning whatsoever. But for this one, I was actually going through. I'm an insomniac. I can't, I don't know why. I think I've got too much energy. But anyway, and I'd had a really bad bout of it about 2 years ago, and that's actually what started me writing. I just found myself. The good news was it was creative, bizarrely for me.
yeah,
So the tracks floating through. I don't want to hear any more music, and I waited a year. They were all inspired by my insomnia. And then once I'd opened up that kind of amount of honesty in writing I didn't want anything on there to be dishonest. Nothing's fictional, and any lyric on there is true. Every musical note is true. I just want it to be an absolute honest replication of myself and my music.
And what inspired you, apart from doing that on your own and some of that experience? Was there anything else that's brought those songs together?
Just when I start working on a song, I just kind of get locked into it. So far, I'm lucky enough that I can. What I do is I convert our living room into my studio. So usually, what I would do is like on a Friday night, just put all my gear up after work, whatever, and then just work the whole weekend through. I just get locked into it. I'm doing 10 hours, 12 hours like that, thinking I'm going to take a break, and I go outside for a bit to get some fresh air, and then I go, oh, I want to go back in. And I go back in. I kind of think I've finished it Sunday lunchtime, go, oh, that's it, I'll just play it back one more time. And of course I'm like, oh, that bit's too loud, that bit's... And suddenly before you know it, it's 8 o'clock Sunday. So then I might leave it set up, and one day after work have a little visit to it again, but then that with that track done. But it's good. The good thing, as you were sort of hinting at earlier on, I can be an absolute perfectionist because it's just me. I don't have to worry about anyone's feelings. If I did mute that guitar, and if there was a separate guitarist, they might be like, you can't mute my guitar, but it's me, so I don't care. So I kind of get to a point where in the recording process, I just record and record and record and record until I've gone, right, that's enough. And then by my own rules, I'm like, I'm not allowed to do any more recording. I put the instruments even out of my way, get the headphones on, and just strip away, strip away, strip away, strip away. I've sometimes get the keyboard I use, I just plug into Logic and they go through the sounds on there. So sometimes I allow myself to maybe have a bit of like a Hammond organ type sound on a middle bit or whatever that might need a little bit of picking up. But yeah, I was in such a good place with it in December when I was finishing it. I had just recorded Drawing a Line, and I was really, really pleased with how that turned out. I knew that was like a good moment for the album, and it's almost like it let me take my foot off the gas a little bit, because I knew that the 7 songs that I did have I was really, really happy with, so I could go a little bit more experimental with the opening track and the acoustic track. And basically Christmas was looming, and I wanted to get it finished so I could pack it down so the family could get the tree up. So I think I finished it on about the 20th of December, when it was like, can we please get the tree up? I was like, give me a minute. So done, finished it. And I get it. The one thing I don't do myself is I get it mastered by a really great guy who he works at Bristol, his own studio in Bristol. He's a massive Buddy Holly fan, and he does loads of mastering for really quirky kind of stuff. I got his details through Cherry Red Records. And he's brilliant. Over the years, I've sent him all sorts of weird things like cassette recordings and various bits and bobs. And he for me just changes what I've sent him to make it, just gives it that extra layer so that it can get played on the radio, so that it can get journalists and taken seriously.
And who is that?
He's called Alan. And
Alan is it Alan Wilson?
Yeah.
Western Star
That's
Records.
It.
Yeah. So I'm into all the kind of rockabilly and sort of stuff like that. So I know Alan's stuff pretty well.
He's brilliant. I love him. He really makes all the difference for me. I love it.
Yeah, he's actually, I don't know if you've read his book.
No.
Highly recommend his book. Check his book out. Really good. Yeah, it's
awesome.
He's got some really, really interesting stuff, particularly about Joe Meek.
Yeah, great. Yeah,
and various others. So I'll recommend that to you.
I will absolutely dig that out. Then
check it out.
Thank you.
It's funny actually, because the next question I was going to ask you was around the production of the record, and it does sound to me very crisp, and I get a real sense that your voice is used as an instrument, and by that what I mean is there's space to actually let the voice sort of breathe, and without in various songs it's almost isolated at times, and that really pulls through, and I think it's quite powerful in some of the tracks, particularly I Waited a Year, which I thought was, phenomenal track. So again, was that something that was deliberate? Just in terms of
I mean, I'm no engineer. I don't know. I don't know how anything actually works. If I had to put it in words, I don't know. What I tend to do is, I mean, what I did on the vocals, actually, I double tracked most of them. I mean, I'd do a vocal and then I'd just keep going and I'd do about 4 and then I'd start tidying it out. And then I'd end up kind of with 2 lead vocals that I'd double track. And then I tended to put an effect maybe on one of them and rest it underneath the other kind of thing, maybe an echo or phase or something like that. I did on a couple. And then I've just got the headphones on and I've got EQ or whatever might be up. I kind of close my eyes and I just sort of pull it around until it sounds exactly right to me. And then I kind of hands back again. And then that the sort of isolation thing that you picked up on, that comes when I strip everything up. I just instinctively kept taking things away. I kind of instinctively was drawn, I think, to that kind of quite down, stripped down sound in the end.
Yeah, no, I think it works fantastic.
Thank you.
The album title does intrigue me, Ghost Tapes 1 to 9. What's the background?
Well, I was wondering what to call it, and I kept thinking about what it meant to me, and I was thinking how it really was very honest. I was thinking it came from my soul, and I realized, of course, soul music has been taken. So I was putting things in Google, and I got this thing came up saying Operation Wandering Soul, and it was something that the American soldiers used in the Vietnamese War. They used to play ghost tapes to try and freak out the Viet Cong in the nighttime, and they called them Ghost Tapes 10 and things like that. And I thought, well, a lot of the things in the song, in the lyrics, some of them, the people aren't with us anymore. So like only a ghost, there is a bit of a ghostly wash across it because, people I mentioned in the song, some of them are no longer here. And I just thought, well, it really fitted everything there. So I just called them Ghost Tapes 1 to 9. Yeah,
no, that's quite an interesting backstory, actually. I like that. Yeah. Just going back a few years, you and Danny started the Green Man Festival, and you put on some amazing acts. So many to mention, but probably a couple for me: Bat for Lashes, Robert Plant, the National. Such an incredible success story from, and it brings the old proverb to mind: mighty oaks from little acorns grow.
Indeed.
And very, springs to mind. But when you were thinking about setting that festival up, did you have a sense of what you were trying to achieve or build? And looking back on it now, can you imagine?
Well, we kind of did. I know that sounds really weird. We started it. I mean, basically, the reason we started it was because we'd signed as It's Jo and Danny to RCA Records, and we moved to Wales at that point. Excuse me. And we kind of thought that Wales was going to be where we would come back to, having gone off on massive world tours. But of course, we got dropped about 3 months, about a year into the deal. And it's kind of like, okay, well, we live in Wales now, and we just had our first child. We kind of have to survive. So we had done promotions before. We used to do a thing called the Buzz Club at a local arts centre where we put on quite a few really well-known bands. And so we thought, well, we can tap into that skill for me. Danny went off and got a teaching certificate so that he could actually go out and actually earn the money. And he left me at home setting up during the day, the festival, and he'd come home at night. And once we had 2 kids by then, once they were in bed, that's literally all we spoke about, just obsessed with it. And we were so on that journey of obsession that it grew in front of us. It was, people used to say at the time, did you imagine it getting bigger? And we were kind of on the journey so much in a funny way we did. I mean, no, we didn't think in 2003, wow, in 10 years' time, this will be massive. But something about the journey, it always did feel logical as it kept progressing.
Yeah, it's incredible. I'm just looking the other night at some of the acts that I've played, and, it's literally as a who's who.
Yeah.
I mean, incredible.
We've always just been able to, I mean, I think I've always had a bit of a knack of spotting a band who have potential when they're quite small. So that's what the Buzz Club was. Like, we had the Stone Roses and Primal Scream and the Happy Mondays and Suede, and I can't even think who, the Charlatans and loads of others. So that was a knack of spotting a band that could fill a 300 capacity arts centre on the way up, kind of thing. And then when it came to to the Green Man, the thing that I think we spotted was the kind of folk movement becoming a bit hip with the beta band, with, I like to think ourselves, James Yorkston, the Fence Collective, all that kind of stuff. There was young people making either pure folk music, really, like the Fence Collective guys, or then the folktronica thing with Quartet, and with It's Jo and Danny, we had drum machines and drum beats and stuff like that. So it felt like that was the scene that we were spotting that was going to have legs on it. And it was great to feel sort of part of it. So that was what we did. And the first posters we did, it was almost like using the folk word. We almost felt was like using the punk word, because it was kind of quite out there. It was quite brash for us for doing this thing, a folk festival. It wasn't anything like Cambridge folk, and it wasn't meant to be sort of middle-aged men stroking their beards and drinking real ale. It was meant to be young people breaking through to do it. So yeah, and that it just worked.
Yeah,
the funny thing was when we started the Green Man, to the best of my knowledge, the only festivals that were out there were obviously Glastonbury, Big Chill, Tea in the Park, Reading. I can't even think of any others, a couple maybe, but we kind of did it because we'd been dropped by RCA. And actually what it was us thinking, oh, we hate the music industry, you know, let's leave it, we'll do this. We thought it was an alternative to the music industry when we did it, but of course 4 years later it is the music industry.
Yeah, no, I get that. And next month you're back with a new festival, The Wake. Could you tell us a bit about that, how that's come about?
Well, after Green Man, you know, we tried once to do something. We had something called Third Rail that we got as far as getting a website and getting some bookings, and it wasn't right. We were too, it was too knee jerk. I think we were in too much. The end of Green Man, that's a whole other story in our involvement with it. But so we didn't do it. We kept wondering, and lots of people said, why don't you? Or I've got some land, you know, la la la. And we both started jobs at this stage, and the kids were growing up, and we wanted to carry on earning money so that we could, you know, bring the kids up. And then just last year, I went out. When I worked at a record label called Ultimate Records in the 90s, and my boss was a guy called Maurice Bacon, who's a fantastic guy, and he's always done lots. He was the drummer in the Love Affair when he was 16. And then he's an entrepreneur. He's always been doing different things, and he holds these jousting events. He's bought some land in Sussex where he does these big jousting events.
Okay.
And he was always saying to me, "Why don't you do something on my land?" And I was like, "I don't know if we can, don't know if we can." And then I went out for lunch with him whatever it was, end of last year, November, December, and he said it again, and I mentioned it to Danny again. And then in January, we both kind of looked at each other and went, let's just do it. Let's just go for it. So I was talking to Ken, the guy that I mentioned earlier, who does the press for my album. He did all the Green Man press. Again, he's a really lovely independent kind of press officer guy. He's really good, does a lot of the Domino stuff. When I was talking to him on the phone in kind of, by now it'd probably be early February, he thought I meant 2024. I actually had meant 2025.
Right.
When he explained, oh, I thought you meant this year, I was a bit like, oh, could we? And so Danny and I looked at each other and said, okay, there's two people we think could headline it. If we can get them, we'll do it. And they were King Creosote. He was already busy. Like he's playing a Scotland velodrome, I think he's doing on that date, and Griff Rhys. And actually, Griff Rhys made a bit more sense because of the whole Welsh thing in a funny way. So I think it's perfect that it was Griff. And so I approached his manager, and he said, oh no, the reason he's not got a gig on the 27th of July is that his keyboard player's, I can't remember, on holiday or at a wedding or something like that. So I said to him, do you think he would be interested in doing a solo gig? And he went, oh, I can ask him. So he then went to Griff and asked him, and then I was told, okay, you can make an official offer to his agent. So I did, and I believe she's Liam Gallagher's agent, so she was quite busy setting up the John Squire tour at the time. But anyway, Griff took I mean, it's not long when you look back on it, but he took 3 weeks to answer because, you know, he was on tour, busy, and he's Griff. And it doesn't sound like very long to wait for your headline act to confirm, but I was like checking my phone like every 2 seconds, waiting for this hopeful confirmation, because we knew if he said no, we weren't going to do it in 2024.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, I was getting the website. Danny thought of the name The Wake. I mean, first of all, when he said it, he said, I think I've got a name for it, The Wake. And I was a bit like, right, okay. And I sort of went away for a bit, and I thought, you know, I get it. We can't, we we're originators, so we couldn't be like Joe and Danny stock or Joe and Danny, do you know what I mean? Something naff like that.
Yeah. And
we're older. We thought it would be a slightly more mature festival. Everyone's lost people that they love when you get to our age. The Wake can be used in quite a few different, like the wake of things that have gone before. That sort of implies what we've done before. Danny himself had a heart operation last year, so it was it was a little bit of a reference to the kind of the wake. And also we're both of Celtic descent, Irish wakes, and that have a different meaning, and it's a sort of celebration of life. So yeah, I was like, you know what, The Wake is a great title. So we had all that. I was getting the website ready. We got all the Instagram, the X, and the Facebook pages all ready, and so I'm just waiting to populate it once. And then Griff, we told ourselves we wanted to get the tickets on sale on the 1st of March. Griff confirmed on the 1st of March, and that we were like, okay. So I had 1 week, because we knew we couldn't come out with a brand new festival any later than that. So we said we'll get tickets on sale on the 8th. So I had 1 week with in between work. This is like getting up super early, by lunch hours, working late, weekends. And I got the initial lineup together, got all the website. I got up on 5:30 the day the tickets went on sale, just get the website up to date.
Yeah.
And then yeah, we sold out yesterday, so
Oh,
it's
yeah.
really good.
Yeah,
It's been
that's
brilliant.
pretty amazing, isn't it?
It's going to be very small.
And
We've got a thing called a TENS license, which, just by the way, it's you can't have any more than 499 on site, including the artists and all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be very small and very intimate. But the first Green Man, we only had 350. So that's how we do it. You know, we're funding it
yeah.
ourselves. We've got no backers. We don't want any backers, because it means we can do exactly
Hmm.
what we want. There's no boss. There's no one to
Hmm.
tell us what we can and can't do. So every single detail we've done ourselves. And so yeah, it's brilliant. It's sold out.
Fantastic. It's sold out. So what can people expect? Is there a mix of
Yeah, I
music?
mean, I'm
What
really,
else? Yeah.
it's a small site. So when I've said that it was on Morris's
Hmm.
jousting site, he has this woodland area within that site. We won't be. He's got big fields, obviously, that are needed for the horses and that, but he's got this lovely
Hmm.
woodland area, and in that he's already built a stage. So the stage is in the woodland area. The main issue, because it's a small site, because we've got talks and we've got DJs and we've got acoustic acts as well on top of on
Hmm.
top of the main stage, is we don't want there to be any sound bleeds, you know, like a DJ
Of course, yeah.
their
Yeah.
acoustic act. So the main trick has been kind of working out the timings so that nobody clashes and so we don't spoil
Yeah.
anybody's performance, but that you can still have a good time in the bar. So we've got a site visit. I think we've done it. I think we've got it. Danny worked out all the timings, and you know, the two of us did it together. And we've got a site meeting in a couple of weeks. We're just going to 100% work out that goes there, that goes there. But I mean, so we've got some. Obviously, we've got Griff Reese. We've got Emma Tricker, who released a fabulous album on Bella Union last year.
Hmm.
Aspirin Sun, I think it's called. And then people started coming. One True Pairing, who's on Domino, who used to be in the Wild Beasts.
Okay.
So quite a lot of acoustic stuff. There's a really good psychedelic, almost kraut rock band called Who, which is HOO. So it's really, really great music. We've got some talks. We've got Richard Norris, who used to be in The Grid, and has got.
Yeah.
If you haven't read his book,
The
by the
grid.
way, it's
I've
amazing. It's a
Okay,
really,
not got that one, but yeah, I'll
really,
check
really
that.
good book. So he's going to be talking about his book and his life in music, all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
And he was brilliant. I texted him and said, "Did he want to be a part of it?" And he said yes. And I said, "Look, there's not much cash." And I just told him what we could give him. And he came
Hmm.
straight back and he said, "Do you want me to DJ as well?" And I was like, "You hero." So there's been some real friendly, you know, making it happen. People like that have been doing us really good favors. And then there's Daniel Rachel, who's just written a book about two-tone. He's going to be
Uh,
on the talk stage as well.
I've got the book. I've not
That was
read it,
it's
but I've
great.
got it.
Well,
Yeah.
you'll enjoy it. Yeah. So he's
Yeah.
going to be doing he's got a load of 2-tone 7 inches he'll be playing for his DJ set. And then we got Johnny Hopkins, who was the press officer for Oasis when they exploded in the glory years, as he says. And again, he's very kindly coming along. He's going to give a talk and he'll do Q&As. So if you're curious, what was it like? Because
Yeah.
he was right there from the word go until they got massive. And then yeah, Danny and I play a bit of a DJ set as well. So
Fantastic. So plenty going on then.
yeah, and then what we did actually, in fact, our initial idea, because we thought it'd be a slightly more mature festival, we were only going to have one ticket price, £30. We wanted it to be very affordable, but we weren't going to do kids tickets because we wondered about that. That was the first learning curve lesson we had. The first two questions that came in were like, "Where are your kids tickets?" And luckily, we were both working at home that day, so I said to Danny, "Oh my God, I think we should do kids tickets." So we went, "Okay." So we've made it 13 and under. It's free. And so, of course, we've got 102 kids on site. And so then I was like, oh, we can't just let 102 kids just like run around. We now need to entertain them. And of course, I didn't know what it could have been like. Everyone was 13 or everyone was a baby in arms. So I had to go back to the ticket holders and say, "Can you tell me how old your kids are, please?" So we could work out. And now we've got a really nice kids tent as well. And it's stuff like, body movement and stories and things like that. It's not it's not bouncy castles, it's not face painting, it's just
Yeah.
nice and so there's that going on as well. And
Yeah,
then DJs and yeah, there's loads going on.
What's going on? I think it's different scale, but I've been down to Kendal Calling a couple of times. They had a lovely woodland area and various stages within it. And the kids stuff as well. So again, none of the bounce castle stuff.
Yeah,
it was
exactly.
all sort of really interactive things for them to do and stuff like that. So it sounds like a really good
Well, I've
plan
got a really nice story about for the kids at festivals. We did in 2005. We filmed The Green Man. It was the year Bonnie Prince Billy and Joanna Newsom headlined, and it was at a place called Baskerville. It was a wild weekend. It was just off the scale, magic, wild. I mean, we were the organisers, so we were kind of like everyone else was just going crazy, which is the idea. And we did a film of it, which never got released because I didn't the one thing I didn't do is actually get anyone's permission. So I asked after the event, and they were like, "No, we're not giving you permission." One guy was watching it, and he didn't know it had been filmed. He was 9 years old at the festival, and he sees his dad being interviewed, and he's there in his Green Man t-shirt.
Yeah.
He said that festival blew his mind, and as soon as he came home from it as a 9-year-old, he got a guitar, which he now can play, and he's now like 22 or whatever. He's in a brilliant band called Baggio, and they're going to open the wake.
Wow, that's
nice,
such that's an amazing story, isn't it? It's
nice,
just
isn't it?
And it's things like that that just make you want to keep doing it, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah.
I can't not mention your blog/website, Indie Through the Looking Glass, which is absolutely fantastic. I think it really tells your story, I think, from the 60s onwards, but I think it's so much more than that. Music obviously is at the core. But you read through, you get a sense of the history, the culture, the politics, your family, Barra, Ellie Barra and all of that sort of stuff. Have you ever thought about turning that into a book?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to be honest with you. I would like to. Yeah, I did think about it. I did think about it just before we started doing the wake, and the wake has obviously now has sort of gone a bit above the blog for just now. But in September, when I've got downtime again, yeah, I'd love it to be a book. I'd love it to be a book.
Yeah, I think there's just so much in there. I mean, you could probably do at least a couple of volumes quite easily.
That's the only thing that I'm nervous might confuse people, because there's almost like too much in it, because it's like you might be an indie kid from the 90s, but you don't like the Green Man bit, or you might be a Jingle Jangle fan from mid 80s. So I did the first chapter, which I've just completed, which is in the beginning was the music. I approached that more as if it was going to be a book. That I was sort of trying a little. I didn't want it to look quite like so much like a diary. It looks a little bit like a diary when it gets a bit further on, because I wrote all the gigs down, so I referenced those dates, and I've just been kind of working out the best way to kind of do it, basically.
No, I think that'd be a cracking project if you do.
Thank you.
And just sort of made me reflect a little bit around that journey, particularly around the 80s to now, musically, and how we get our music. So much has changed. If we look at the written word, you talk initially about the NME, Smash Hits, The Face, obviously other Zigzag, Record Mirror, Melody Maker, all these things gone now. You mentioned obviously, Uncut, Mojo at the moment, really, and beyond that, not much else. TV and radio back in those days, the Tube, the Whistle Test, Top of the Pops,
loads of stuff.
Pretty much now all we've got is Later, and then TV and radio. Sorry, you have John Peel, etc. All of that kind of stuff. Not so much now. Gig tickets as well, was a thing. You talk about the gig tickets and whatnot. Record buying as well was vinyl, cassette, CD. Now it's very much digitally focused. What's your thoughts on all of that? I mean, in some ways, your music is now probably more accessible than what it would have been, but
I know it's a really tricky one, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't. Funnily enough, people would probably assume that I was a big vinyl person, but I sold most of my vinyl when we moved into the house we're in now. I'd had it when we left Wales. We took a while to get our own house again, and excuse me, it had all been put in storage. And then it all came back out, and I was like, it just kind of like, I could have opened a secondhand record shop, quite frankly, in my own house. I was like, where we lived in Wales, we had a converted barn, and it was a bit bigger, a bit more spacious, and so it was all great. The vinyl all worked, but this is sort of southeast of England. It's not such a big place, and I just didn't know what to do with all the vinyl, so we sold it. And then with that money, I got like streamings, the original things that we could connect your iPad to, sort of nice speakers and all that kind of stuff. So it's a funny thing. I've still got my 7-inches. I've still got my postcard records. I kept the ones that I've got Falling and Laughing by Orange Juice. That's never going anywhere. So I kept those. Funny enough, I realised that it was the 7-inches meant more to me than anything. The albums, I know that it's lovely to take an album out of the sleeve and pour over the inner sleeve while you're playing the record, and I wish I could do that sometimes. But I just think it's whatever makes music accessible, and that people could. It's tricky as well, because if I want people to hear my music, I could have given them a CD previously. Now it's a bit weird if you send someone a link. It loses that kind of tactile sort of feel. But yeah, it's just it's quite odd. It's hard to get my music heard. I mean, Spotify monthly listeners, I don't have a particularly healthy amount yet. I wish I could get it up. I don't know how to, all on my own with my own label. I know it's all about playlists and things like that, but I don't really know how to do those kind of things. I mean, I think I'm right in saying Danny told me, Danny used to work at Cherry Red. That's how the Cherry Red connection was there. I'm fairly sure he told me, and maybe don't quote me in case I'm wrong, but I think he told me that one John Peel play meant 30,000 sales.
Wow. Yeah.
Something like that. Do you know what? When we finished, he's not here. I'll text him and I'll let you know if that was correct. I'll get the correct answer. It could be 3,000, but I remember it being like astonishing. I remember it. So yeah, it's really hard. I mean, you know, BBC Six have been very supportive of me, which is fantastic. But I don't quite know how you get that thing that you used to have when you buy a record and you go and see the band live and everyone was into them, and then the NME would write about them and the band was on the way up.
That's right. You know, I remember, you know, avidly buying the NME, and I'd read a review and think, I'm just going to buy that. I've no idea what the band sound like. You've gone and buy it. And hopefully, you know, it works. But now it's so much different, isn't it?
I mean, so you could mention someone to me and I could be like, oh yeah. 2 seconds later, I formed an opinion, which is good. But you know, sometimes when I don't know if you did this ever, I'd read a review like you just said, you buy the record and actually didn't like it that much, but you've just invested your pocket money in it, so you're jolly well going to play it and eventually actually really like it.
Yeah.
Whereas Spotify, you can just make up your decision on the first few seconds and go, oh.
That's right. Yeah. Or you would, you know, go and swap it with one of your pals or something like that. You know.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. So it has changed. I guess it's interesting times that all of that journey in terms of, you know, whether it's publications, how you access your music and whatnot. So yeah, interesting. And looking back, I mean, you've had your musical life. You've been in bands, a solo artist, a duo with Danny. You've been a promoter. You worked for a record company. You've ran a record label, the festivals, a writer. What the hell do you do to relax, Jo?
Do you know what? I can't relax. I think that's why I'm an insomniac. I don't think I can switch off. Yeah, that's it. I can't.
That's it. Fair enough. And beyond the wake, what next for you?
Good question. I mean, obviously, I hope the wake is a great success and takes place this year, and next year we can grow it a bit. So that'd be good fun trying to. I mean, and if we do grow it, the idea is we want to keep it an affordable festival. That's kind of what we want it to be. We're kind of fed up. Like I think people are starting to get fed up with 250 quid. You know, to see huge festivals that you know you might not enjoy it all or whatever. I think we want to just keep it small and affordable. That's basically a really great curation. So that's with that. I want to go back into my writing in September, and then I've got to try and work out. I'll tell you what I do want to do. I want to play live with this new Jo Bartlett stuff. I did a gig last May, and singing and playing bass. So I on my laptop I had, again, I worked it out. I sort of muted a few things, so I still had the drum machines, and I don't like it when you see someone live and you hear instruments they're not playing, you kind of look around a bit. So I didn't want it to be exactly the same as the recorded version. I need trigger points within it to know where I am in the song kind of thing. So I managed to do a 5-song set last May playing bass with the laptop, and I was really, really pleased with it, but I haven't done anything since. So I think once the wake's been, my band, I've got a band as well called Kodiak Island. We're actually splitting up very sadly. So the wake is going to be our final performance. So also in September, I want to start looking at me playing some stuff live. I think probably the easiest way, I keep thinking about it, I think probably the easiest thing for me to do in the first instance is probably just film myself doing it in my own house as usual, because I don't want to be my own roadie and drive and get to a gig and 2 people turn up and I'm like, oh. So I think probably the easiest way to build or let people know that I'm around and can play live would be just to film myself and just pop it up on socials and stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to doing that. I kind of sort of make my own videos by downloading stuff from YouTube and then editing all that up. Maybe do some sort of soundtrack. I don't know. I can't suddenly write another album. I don't have any ideas for that, but I'd like to kind of just get into doing another bit of music. So I was thinking something like soundtracks or something like that.
Okay, plenty to be getting on with then.
Yeah.
And last question. which we always ask, but and particularly really looking forward to your answer in this one. I've no idea how many gigs you've been to. I mean, obviously in the website you list, I think it's 79 to 90, then you just gave up, right? And there's so many. But looking back on all the gigs that you've been to over the course of your life, what's the one gig you would choose that stands out the most, and why?
I think it's probably the first time I saw the Stone Roses. I saw them at Dingwalls in 87, I think it was, supporting, do you know the Raw Herbs?
Don't know them, no.
No, not a very famous band. The band called the Raw Herbs. They were on a label called Medium Cool, which is a great little label. Scottish lead singer, Derek, in the Raw Herbs. Anyway, we'd gone to see them on a Monday night at a club called the Panic Station at Dingwalls in Camden. And we'd been sent Sally Cinnamon on 12-inch because we did the Buzz Club and I'd got a couple of DJ mailing lists. And so we got it and put it on, wasn't particularly impressed. But when we got to Dingwalls, we were like, oh, that band, the Stone Roses, are on first. Well, let's go down the front and watch them.
Yeah.
And they pretty much played the first album in front of our eyes and about 20 members of the audience. So we were just like, get out. And Ian Brown was like jumping up, and there were these pipes, and he was jumping up on these pipes and swinging on them and doing this and that, landing in the audience. He took a guy's cigarette off him, or a guy's glasses off him. And it was kind of like, oh my God, they've become our new favourite band. And so we followed them around, and of course we put them on at the Buzz Club and all that kind of stuff. I mean, up to Second Coming for me personally. For me, after that, it wasn't the same. I saw him a few times after that, but without Rennie when he wasn't back in it then, and just the first album and up to that point. But it started with that night at Dingwalls, which was incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I saw them again. I've saw them a few times. Actually, my cup of tea here, it's a Stone Roses mug.
Hey, very good.
So that was a bit fortunate, but yeah, I saw them. Glasgow Green.
Oh yeah, nice.
Was the big one in I think 1990. That was around about the time of Spike Island.
Yeah,
so
perfect.
that was a different class. Saw them at the Barland and stuff like that, but not in a small venue like Dingwalls for sure. That must have been amazing.
Yeah, it was. It was, and just that there were so few of us there. I think there was about 20 people each of them. It was nuts. Yeah. The support band. It was nuts. And by the way, I do relax. I read. I play table tennis. That's how I relax. And I walk.
Fantastic.
That's like a job interview, doesn't it? And I'm a good player.
Right. Listen, Jo, thank you for spending some time with us today to talk to Into Creative. We wish you all the best with the album and the upcoming Wake Festival. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for talking to me.